Hello and welcome to my third broadcast, my third sermon from here in the Sacred Space Church. This is my primary personal habitation where only I am allowed. It is April 14th of 2019. And I have an empty hotel because of interference with my communications. And it is very sadistic. I am extremely impoverished. I have never earned more than the poverty line in my entire life, and I would probably be a millionaire or more, although I'd give a heck of a lot to charity, and have tens of thousands of employees if it were not for the interference of my communications and other crimes that our government has caused to me. Now, this sermon, I'm hoping that people will wake up quite a bit as to what our government really is and what we need to do. Now, I grew up as an Eagle Scout. I pledged allegiance to the flag. I sang the national anthem, which of course I still do, and I believe in what our country stands for. And I reverence as a part of scouting. I've always been reverent. And I went many times to a church camp, Camp Akita, near Logan, not too far from here. And I did my Eagle Scout project doing switchbacks on the trail that goes down to the lake in order to avoid soil erosion. In addition, we did an extra service project because an ice storm came up and came down, chainsawed and moved a bunch of trees that had blocked the camp's entrance and the parking area and stuff like that. So, but what has happened is now I am an extremely victimized person, and primarily because of my willingness to speak truth to power. And I have sued 6 different police agencies. I have been beaten by police. I have broken ribs. I've been beaten by an AEP employee who's got broken collarbone and other broken bones that still hurt quite a bit to this day. And yet no one has been prosecuted for these crimes. And today, federal agents, police, prosecutors, mental health goons, they are a secret sadistic government that are a blasphemy not only to what our country stands for, but they are a blasphemy to God. They permit robberies, such as the delayed warrant provision. If you look up on the internet, DEA delayed warrant, you can see how they ransack someone's house to make it look like a burglary when they were really just doing a so-called sneak and peek under the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act has created a gang-stalking government of terrorists and criminals who are in blasphemy to God. And that's one of the main reasons why the rich have gotten so much richer and the poor have gotten so much more poor, is because the Patriot Act covers up corruption. For example, the former sheriff of Athens County, Pat Kelly, trumped up a lot of charges against me, which still tarnished my image, because even though I was found not guilty of them, they still show on the internet as charges. And I helped to prosecute him and put him in prison for 7 years for corruption. Now, also a former prosecutor is in prison for stealing $250,000. And one of the things that Pat Kelly allowed is William Black to break in through a window, which is right behind where the camera is now, and I have bars on it now, and rob me with socks on his hands of some of my very best possessions, including negatives needed for upcoming books. You can see a video of this at repealthepatriotact.org, one of my websites. You can see a video of me being assaulted and AEP goon Ryan Kaywood breaking my bones after breaking and entering and trespassing at sacredspacechurch.net. Now, instead of arresting the guy who assaulted me, the sheriffs actually arrested me because the assailant kept coming back to my property, and I called 911. This is one of the greatest corruptions ever known on our planet. Now, I'm the author of 4 books, and one of my upcoming books is about me being assaulted and then charged and went to a jury trial. It's under appeal. It might go back to a new jury trial. It's hard to say. but people do need to get involved in this because unfortunately those in our government are the criminals. And here's a quote from our Bible, Corinthians chapter 4, verse 2. "We have renounced disgraceful, underhanded ways. We refuse to practice cunning or to tamper with God's word, but by the open statement of the truth, we would commend ourselves to everyone's conscience in the sight of God." Now, the Patriot Act has made millions upon millions of people in our government cunning. They rob from the most poor and give to the rich. One way they do it is by interference with web searches and the internet. Another way they do it is they actually block and drop phone calls and emails. And for example, my competitors, I run a hotel, they often charge $150, $200 a night. I've got the best prices. And I also offer work trade where people can do 1.5 hours of work for trade for stay in my dorm room. Now, I've stayed in more than 100 hostels around the world. That's what gave me the idea to create one myself. They're very good for helping the poor. Many churches run hostels like mine. And I stayed in a church-run hostel in Sitka, Alaska during one of my expeditions and one of my upcoming books. And what's happened is the rich are getting so much richer that there are now 3 people in America that have $100 billion more than the lower 163.5 million people. That is a sadistic form of oppression that our government caters to, and it's getting worse and worse. And here's a verse from our Bible, Isaiah chapter 1, verse 17. "Learn to do good, seek justice, correct oppression, bring justice to the fatherless, plead the widow's cause." Now, I urge people to look into my case because it will unravel a massive can of worms that will save millions of other people from oppression around the world. Here's another quote from the Bible, Proverbs chapter 22, verse 16. "Whoever oppresses the poor to increase his own wealth or gives to the rich will only come to poverty." So we do need to help make that the case, and we can do that with justice and taking those to court who do things like intercept phone calls, and if they don't get through to me, they might end up staying in a Hilton, give the rich more money. That's not good for the economy. And we need to get our government to tell the truth. This is done under the Patriot Act and hidden under the Patriot Act. And I will end with a quote from our Bible, Proverbs chapter 19, verse 9. "A false witness will not go unpunished, and he who breathes out lies will perish." So everyone have a great week, and I'll be back next week